Warning. The Federal Communications Commission has determined the following content to be emotionally harmful. Snowflakes should not view this content under any circumstances, even if supervised by a G.I. Joe, Navy SEALs, Army vet, or someone with good common sense. The views and opinions expressed, including the depictions of persons of color, corrupt politicians, white people with or without a tan, haters who have yet to brush their teeth typing angrily in the comment section with hot breath syndrome, do not reflect any official policy or position of the U.S. government. This program contains graphic language, dark comedy, unique intelligence, creativity, a high credit score, and high blood pressure when triggered. This program has also been accused of racism, violence, misogyny, mansogyny, feminism, MGTOWism, defacement of celebrities, and of course, being a bully. Welcome to Thought Crimes.
What's up, everyone? This is your girl Sincere, and welcome to Thought Crimes. And I'm here with...
Yo, this is your man Prince Solomon, back in the building again. Everybody, good morning.
We're going to be talking about Drake versus Lucian Grange, UMG. We're also going to be talking about will he go independent? And I mean with no distribution from UMG. Find another source. Is this going to happen? And if he does so, this will be a landmark move that has never been done before in the industry successfully by an artist that is that mainstream. Also, we're going to be talking about The Heart Part 7 with Kendrick. It may be dropping. Who knows? Night Night was the one who came up with that, just like he was right about The Heart Part 6 with Kendrick Lamar. So we're going to see. So one of the things, though, going into this, though, I do have to say, I got to bring up how diabolical Spotify, UMG, and Live Nation is. Did y'all know that people tried to show the UMG deal with Spotify as if it didn't involve Live Nation? For those who don't know, UMG now has a deal with Spotify where fans can remix artists who are under UMG, their music for the artists that volunteer, right? And remix their music with AI. Edit their music with AI. And I hope a lot more people start speaking about this because this is actually a really serious fucking issue. So let me just read this to y'all from chart data. Spotify and UMG announced licensing deal allowing fans to create AI covers and remixes of songs from participating artists and songwriters signed to UMG. Now remember, guys, we told y'all years ago, even in 2024, before the battle with Kendrick Lamar and Drake, that this was coming down the pipeline, that UMG that was pretending to be, for artists' rights and doing all the right things were no such thing. I mean, like, come on, what did they tell you to do? Don't ever dance with the devil. And then on top of that, a lot of people don't even know that Live Nation is also lurking in the background pertaining to this as well. Now, on our Patreon, we showcase all of this. I do want to get to that one before I bring Prince Solomon's handsome face into this. But let me just quickly look for... Yes, this is the one where it talks about the ticketing reserved part. So this is where Live Nation comes in with the big three. The big three being Spotify, UMG, and Live Nation right now, even though Live Nation is taking some major hits. So I called it on Patreon the takeover, Live Nation, UMG, Spotify, the big three. Spotify announces new reserved feature, which will allow artists to, again, set aside concert tickets for fans on the platform. It will use streams, shares, and other forms of activity to identify an artist's most dedicated fans and hold 2 tickets for them. Meaning now it's the Hunger Games. Most fans going to have to pay 20 grand for a fucking ticket. But the two that's the most dedicated, who's a super fan stan, yeah, they're going to get the 2 free tickets or tickets on discount while everybody else got to pay 20 grand. Wow, they're so kind. So anyway, to give Anish credit, He stated here, Spotify just announced reserve to help fans get concert tickets. The Pop Crave tweet leaves out the partner, Live Nation, which owns Ticketmaster, which lost an antitrust trial last month and is being sued by the FTC for quietly working with scalpers. How Reserved works on paper is simple. Spotify uses your streams, shares, and location to decide whether you count as a super fan of an artist. Now pause. Remember when Prince brought up Jimmy Iovine being over there with Complex and how they're trying to create super fans? They conned all of us. They remember what happened in 2024, that all of a sudden people became crazy stans online, even more so than usual. Again, we understand they were always crazy people. Versace got killed by a crazy stan. John Lennon got a bullet in the head by a crazy stan. And Jodie Foster had a crazy stan stalking her, but she survived. But what they're doing is making it digital as well. This is why on X and social media, you have a lot of botting that's going on all sides. And you also have a situation where you have people who spend 24/7 of their lives dedicated to making it seem like Drake, Kendrick, Cole, somebody is a hero, Jay-Z, whoever you want to think of, Beyonce, so on and so forth, because they're basically trying to brainwash you into becoming a super fan so you can worship these people. Again, a lot of these people make great music, but you should definitely have other things to do with your life. But Prince talked about this a while ago when we talked about who were the new partnerships with Complex as a company. And we talked about Network. We talked about Jimmy Iovine. Y'all could go listen to our old videos on that. So he said so they can see which fans are dedicated for a super fan. This is why on Spotify, they were showing you the data of who you listen to the most. Were you the most supportive to Drake? Were you the most supportive to Kendrick? Were you the most supportive to Nas or Jay-Z or whatever your listening habits are. So super fan of an artist, right? If you make the cut, Spotify holds 2 tickets for you for about a day. Live Nation supplies those tickets and Ticketmaster processes the payment. The deal underneath is Spotify feeding Ticketmaster the cleanest buyer data it has ever had. The product Spotify is selling here is fan verification, and the buyer is the company that already owns concert ticketing, that was mocking y'all, remember, and laughing at y'all and saying how broke y'all were, and we're gonna really price the brokies. Remember what they said about you in trial, what Michael Rapino was caught doing as well, which I have to go watch our conversation with Tommy Dorfman when he says Live Nation, Michael Rapino, and even companies that are partnered with it, including Rock Nation, are basically a mafia and a cartel, according to Tommy Dorfman. But let me wrap this up here with this part. It says here, Spotify is selling here a fan verification, and the buyer is the company that already owns concert ticketing. And it is exclusive. No other streaming service gets this through Live Nation for now. Only Spotify. Spotify has tried this before. They ran direct ticket sales in 2022. Then quietly killed the experiment in 2024. They killed the experiment in 2024, but now is revived. I wonder how. Live Nation CEO Michael Rapino, Spotify, and that's the CEO, just to let you know, of Live Nation. So Spotify has tried this before, and we talked about what the issue they ran into. But Live Nation CEO Michael Rapino said back in February that he had been in ticketing talks with Spotify, Apple, and Amazon for over a year. And I have more to say on this, but I do want to bring Prince Solomon in on this and what he thinks about this, because we told even our audience, like, people, there are paid platforms on both sides. People like, oh, just for Drake. No, on all sides, that are grooming you to be a super fan. Podcasters who are part of the industry and so on and so forth. And here we are right now where the evidence of what we were talking about is right here in the pudding. No Bill Cosby. So I really want to see what Prince Solomon thoughts is on this, because like this is just some crazy stuff.
Great job there, Sincere Ignorance. Listen, folks, I mean, what can you say? I mean, to be honest with you, people, kind of got caught up in 2024. And I don't think it was just necessarily 2024 that, was going to be carrying this out with folks just in genuine nature of the situation. I'll give you an example. You guys know we shared our thoughts, almost like our everyday diary of what it was like to cover things post 2024. But Sid and I did see some suspicious things, and we said, why isn't the conversation moving beyond the Bermuda Triangle? You guys know that's J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and then, of course, Drake. And it's not just them, but 2024 was a very interesting, I would say, stimulus package for the industry. And we did see that there was a lot of metadata studying. There was a lot of algorithm traffic. And yes, the radicalizing regular fans into super fans, because you're emotionally invested into your guy. Protect Kendrick, protect Drake, protect J. Cole. And once again, they were able to use this engineering energy through hip hop. And like Sin stated, we talked about this over and over. There's so many paid platforms. It's not just about whether it's Drake, but it's just across all boards. And the Empire definitely was using the information to update things. And again, yes, Jimmy Iovine did have interviews on multiple podcasts that had to do with Silicon Valley, aspiring CEOs. And one thing he was talking about, he was basically talking about the superfan culture, which is what he wanted to do with Complex. And it's looking like it's already working just on a basic level, because people was arguing about that damn list, or any list that comes out of Complex. So yes, Sin, you're absolutely right. They are looking to further the super fandom culture. And it's just an alternative of what Eminem coined back in the day, where he said about standing or standum, and it's just what you're seeing today. But they're going to be giving it, the superfan title. So, that means you're going to get superfan packaging, superfan merchandise, bonuses. Hell, you may even get superfan games that you can play, but to keep you interested. And then now that you see Live Nation, which was interesting that Live Nation was left out of that deal, because when I was looking it up, saying, I didn't notice they only talked about Spotify, right? And they talked about, what was going on with some of the other companies, but they weren't really talking about Live Nation, because Live Nation has a lot of bad publicity right now. Yes, if you guys haven't checked out our interview with Tommy Dorfman, then you guys should definitely check it out. He does a great job, and he's been fighting at Live Nation for 16 years. But yes, it's everything that we suspected. I know a lot of people that was enjoying our commentary. They were having fun, and, they're like, you guys kind of like abruptly stopped, but we're not necessarily stupid. We just saw a lot of weird stuff going on, and we just didn't know what to make of it outside of we heard some things concerning the industry and what people were trying to do. But yes, the superfan culture is something that's vastly needed. That is one of the reasons why they're going to keep promoting these stand wars, these bot wars, and all of these accusations and campaigns. And you see radio getting in on it with Power 105. They're talking about campaigns. And so this is all par for the course, and I definitely see them looking to make this move to consolidate culture. But the other side of it is it does kind of speak about desperation. I'll tell you why, Sin, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. It reminded me, you remember when Disney, or was it Hulu? It was Disney. Well, Hulu is owned by Disney, but it was one of those services where they were telling people, allowing them to make their own AI cartoon. They said, oh, we're going to turn this platform from, where you normally come to watch shows to now, you can have your own AI cartoon sitcom show. I saw a lot of it, the work on there. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. Last time I checked, I don't even think they're promoting it now. So this, I think, may be a little bit different, where it could have some workable legs, because you already have AI firms, and they're saying that there's up to 7 million AI songs being generated a day. Again, your business is your business, but the industry is in a weird space. So now they're stepping into the social media culture where they want people to participate in making the content too, by the way. So it's a very interesting time, but I do find it very fascinating, especially coming out of what we saw with 2024, Sin.
Yeah, Prince, just to add to even what you're saying there, I agree 150%. You know, I also feel like a lot of people are monitoring our channel and our Patreon because we did tell the truth early. People are trying to say, oh, Drake he has a PR firm. All of you do. Everyone has a PR firm. All of them have a PR firm. You know, all of them are connected into this situation with Spotify and Live Nation and also UMG. If you're a UMG artist, or even you have distribution through UMG, you're a part of this. And I'm letting our entire audience know, I don't care what fan base you're a part of, Kendrick, Drake, Cole, whoever, you are being groomed. And yes, the battle of 2024 allegedly did play a role in that grooming, because they want you to put your blood, sweat, and tears into this. They need more action. They need more activity. They want more engagement. They want more data to collect. Now, y'all are grown adults for the people who aren't under the age of 18. So people who are 18 and older, you're going to have to make your own decision. But remember, a lot of people character got assassinated over the last 2 years because of the big three hip hop Trojan horse situation. Remember, if you were someone who you wasn't a fan of Kendrick, and let's say your voice is notable, people who were part of the industry, even the ones who pretend that they're not, but they are, would attack you and say something along the lines that you're a bad person because you don't like Kendrick Lamar's music or this and that. Same thing with Drake. If you someone who criticized Drake, you can also get caught up this as well. We've seen people get in trouble or try to assassinate people's character if they didn't like Drake music. The same thing with J. Cole. Like, you're a bad person if you don't like J. Cole's music. Also, you have people who dox and try to terrorize people if they did like somebody's music. People right now, if they give ICEMAN at 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, a 7.5 out of 10, if that's their particular taste, you'll see people go and attack and be a part of that hive mind where they go attack somebody because of their musical taste. Same thing if someone says they like Kendrick or they like GNX, or even if they say they like J. Cole's The Fall Off. You know, I saw a super fan idiot who basically tried to call me out because I gave The Fall Off a 9 out of 10 after first listening 7 out of 10 and then sitting with it for a week, and then I gave it a 9 out of 10. And you had a super fan idiot who came out talking about, you need to die and all this other stuff. So this is a grooming situation that's taking place where you have fan pages. I want to let y'all know, you have fan YouTube pages that are trying to use even wokeness or anti-wokeness to also make you a super fan, which both sides don't even use the word woke correctly. Woke isn't meant to cancel a singular person so you can win and try to make yourself look better when you have dirt on your hands as well. Woke is supposed to be canceling systems, not individuals. And then the second thing to the anti-woke people who are reacting to the people who hijack the word woke, you see them using anti-woke to try to win. And for the anti-woke people to hijack the conversation and be like, anybody who likes being black or a film that focuses on black history or black people somehow is DEI or is an issue, and this anti-wokeness, and we need to be anti-woke because it's about cancel culture. Cancel culture has nothing to do with wokeness. All these people who play these games like, let's cancel Kendrick because he has people who support him that support Trump. Like Snoop Dogg was out there with TDE on stage, but he supports Trump. So should we cancel Kendrick? Aiden Ross supports Trump and academics. Should we cancel Drake? Is Drake a supporter? Nicki Minaj, so on and so forth. It's a lot of people being disingenuous because they're being groomed to be a super fan by people who are associated to Rock Nation or associated with OVO or associated with TDE and so on and so forth, allegedly. So going back to this article, And even what Prince and I picked up on a while ago, even with Complex, and not just Complex, but other platforms, this has been the thing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Great points. The only thing I would add to that is, people, I get why they fall into it, Sin, and I mean, you understand this as well as that, even if you look at something as simple as the battle of 2024, and realistically, from all of the guys' perspectives, it seemed like nobody really knows what really went on. You get what I'm saying? This wasn't a situation where it's like, even though there was some feds involved in this situation with Tupac, but it wasn't a situation like, okay, Tupac got shot in the elevator. He believes that Biggie and Diddy, or at the very least, Diddy had his hands, or he knows who had their hands in it. You see, that was a very easy storyline to kind of get started there. Overall, when you look at the battle of 2024, I mean, outside of, a grudge match between Kendrick and Drake, J. Cole, then Kendrick talking about it on Whacked Out Murals, and then what Drake is talking about, we kind of don't really know what the hell happened, other than it just maybe people's hormones were all over the place, or mood stabilizers weren't working, whatever the case was. But the audience, including us, everybody was just entertained by the idea of a rap battle. Lo and behold, did we not know that there were going to be a bunch of think tanks that were going to continue to study the information. Now, Sin and I have covered some of these things. We talked about what it means for, a lot of information being bought up, because even with the acquisition of MySpace, if you had an old MySpace account and you tried to log back in with your old password, all of your information is gone because it was sold. All right. So when you've seen even some of these old sites, because you know how they say, protect your data now, yeah, that's a talking point now. I would say probably for the last 7 years overtly, but people forget there's a large sector of social media internet that people was just signing into everything. There's certain social media websites that are no longer here, but you can find out that they were quietly bought out for $900 million, maybe $1 billion, $500 million. And the goal was to get that information that social media site was holding at the time. So nothing has changed now. It's just that with the advent of AI, the technology as far as sourcing your information has become a lot more sophisticated. And not only that, they have these enclaves of different corporations and subsidiary of corporations that are paying influencers that are at times disguise themselves as regular people on Instagram, YouTube, or they're getting kickbacks, like Tommy Dorfman stated when we interviewed him. They're getting kickbacks, and their job is to continue to promote a fight, promote conflict, or they are working hard against another said artist. Look, Academics has been in the crosshairs. He's been a participant. He's spoken about companies that have reached out to him to promote an artist, and he said it himself, if he got a little bit of kickback, he was going to promote a said artist. But he also said on the flip side is that he also has been approached by basically dark money agencies within hip hop that wanted to smear another artist, not because of any good reasons. Like, let's say somebody is looking to get, I don't know, a Lil Baby out of here, right? It's not really to get Lil Baby out of here because people think he's responsible for the majority of the cocaine that's moving through Decatur. A lot of times they're getting him out of here so they can replace that artist with some similar aesthetics, or they feel that that artist is competition. And you're finding that everywhere because now people are kind of putting things together with some of these makeshift YouTubers, makeshift social media influencers. It's all over X. And of course, it's all over Instagram. It's all over social media too, by the way. Look what happened with TikTok, with the Ellisons, you know, the father and son duo, with the purchasing of information. So a lot of this stuff is boiling down to information, and Spotify has, like Sid stated in that article, they have some of the purest and rawest data of uninterrupted information, uninterrupted data, because how often are people just letting their Spotify playlist burn in the background, and it's, you know, talking about Spotify rap, and people are actually sharing their information public with each other. We're participating in data Pokemon trading cards at this point. So it's very interesting. Yes, we all have been groomed to this point somewhere. But yes, it was done on purpose. And I definitely send out one thing we did point it out about 2024, art aside. We're talking about MCing, but we did look at everything. We said this is a lot of valuable data of where to drive the market.
Yeah, you got a lot of dark firms and agencies, Prince, that are even watching our channel. I know a long time ago we first mentioned here that the big three is the Bermuda Triangle, and people are going to take that and spin it in the favor of one camp. So I'll give you an example. Like with this one, the big three, they all have smear campaigns against each other, period. I'm not saying it has to be directly from the artists themselves all the time, but it's a whole smear fest, okay? You see people who are a part of the industry, they want to take off Cole's locks, whether y'all feel he deserves it or not. Same thing with Drake, same thing also with Kendrick, even though they both don't have any locks. But you're seeing a very vicious thing that regular people are getting caught in the crossfires because they also are trying to recruit people. You got to be recruited to get into this, get into this right now. Let's recruit. I want to recruit people to be, a super fan for Kendrick, a super fan for Drake, a super fan for Cole. So it's a lot of psychological deep state games that are being played here that a lot of people need to be careful about. Why are so many people so invested right now to groom you into somebody's camp? And like, what's going on here? Like, they talked about you already saw what happened when Spotify had the situation where we talked about this on Patreon, but where Drake had a BTS album and his were combined like songs manually, and they had to fix it. So BTS was number one, and then Drake was number two. And then they had a situation where people claimed that 100 million bots were removed for Kendrick, and a lot of other artists before too. So you have all these people talking about that as well. And you also have different dark entities and institutions that are backing a lot of different people, dark money that are actually behind all three. And let's see which one survives on some Hunger Games shit. Who can groom their audience to be more of a super fan? And I refuse to be a super fan for anybody. I like the big three's music. The 2024 battle was fun. But a lot of people are being reckless and crazy. We've seen people get doxxed just because they like Drake's music. We've seen people get doxxed just because they like Kendrick's music. And we've seen people get doxxed just because they like Cole's music. And honestly, it's disgusting. But let me read more of this comment. This is an amazing comment here, by the way. In April, a New York jury found Live Nation and Ticketmaster liable on every antitrust count after 33 state attorneys generals argued that the company controls 78% of America's biggest outdoor concert revenues that make artists go broke, by the way. You want to know why Drake has to tour 3 times? You want to know why Beyonce, allegedly, why these big names have to keep touring and touring, sometimes 3 times in a year? Well, you could thank Michael Rapino for that. You could thank Live Nation for that. And this is why in this area, Nicki Minaj was correct when she was trying to fight against Live Nation at the time, or she spoke out where her concert was sabotaged. So these artists is like, you can't really live that way. How are you going to go on tour 3 times? Like, you can literally end up really destroying your body in that way. But let's continue. The company controls 78% of America's biggest outdoor concert revenues, and that Ticketmaster handles 86% of official ticket sales at major venues. So this is something Tommy Dorfman was talking about. They forced him to go broke and homeless. He made $3 million, went from $3 million to 0 because of what Live Nation did. Not just him, but to a lot of independent people who have their own venues. And also, this is also destroying the DJ culture, which is why Jay-Z was on GQ. Well, I shouldn't say why. Let me be more careful with my words. This is why possibly, allegedly, Jay-Z was saying the DJ culture is dead, and also, maybe the battling in hip-hop should go too. Let's get back to what this brilliant commentator. This comment is, the Department of Justice cut a settlement deal in March before its own case finished. The FTC sued separately in September of 2025, accusing Ticketmaster of quietly letting professional brokers basically grab tickets the moment they go on sale, so Ticketmaster collect the fees twice. This is why Tommy Dorfman said they have 3 books. Live Nation got 3 books. They cannot be trusted. And this is a big war on people. This affects the independent scene. This affects everything, venues, all that. Even if you're doing comedy shows, it doesn't matter. They're grooming you to worship a celebrity at the expense of you and the celebrity. It's crazy. So you worshiping Drake so much, or Kendrick so much, or Cole so much so that you do not focus on this, because no hip hop platform is actually talking about this and breaking it down on how it connects to the 2024 battle. What's going on with Live Nation allegedly being a mafia and a cartel, like Tommy Dorfman talked about, and he said he has the evidence. He's been fighting and battling Live Nation for 16 years now. But let's continue. Ticketmaster collects the fees twice. Spotify wants you streaming more because you have to listen more to qualify as a superfan. More streaming means more ad revenue and subscribers who stick around longer. Their stock jumped 17% on the news. Live Nation gets a positive press cycle about caring for actual fans while a judge decides. Live Nation gets a positive press. Oh, I did that again. My bad, guys. My bad. So Live Nation basically gets a positive press cycle about caring for actual fans while a judge decides, okay, let's forward through this, what to do with the April verdict. It also gets Spotify listening data, which in the cleanest way any ticketing system can ever had to tell actual fans from bots. Live Nation made $25.2 billion in revenue last year, which is why Tommy said Live Nation paying $200 million is chump change. $200 million is fucking nothing. They could wipe their butts with. It's 4 days worth of revenue, according to Tommy Dorfman, because he's a number guy, so he knows what's going on. He's been battling them for 16 years. Ticketmaster alone handled 346 million paid tickets in 2025, worth $26 billion. Spotify has 293 million paying subscribers worldwide. Ticketmaster already tried something close to this, basically, called verified fans back in 2017. For Taylor Swift's concert, remember she had a tour in 2022, 3.5 million people registered. 1.5 million were invited to the pre-sale. The site crashed under the load and the general public sale was canceled. Spotify says overnight that there will be basically more superfans than there are seats available. So most fans still get nothing. The supply problem stays the same. All that changes is Spotify and Ticketmaster now sharing data on you while a federal judge decides what to do with Ticketmaster's monopoly ruling. Ticketmaster already tried something close to this called a verified fan back in 2017 for Taylor Swift's, her tour. And we talked about what took place with that and, it crashing the site and all that. So most fans, again, they will get nothing at the end. As he talked about before, the supply problem stays the same. Fuck. These people really fucking used everybody. They're using all your favorite hip hop platforms. Everybody is getting used here. This is a very dangerous situation here, where it's like this is some Palpatine Sith Empire type of maneuver here, Prince. Like, what's your thoughts on this? Damn.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, as they say, it's business as usual, and look, I mean, it's very important to highlight what's been going on with Live Nation, okay? Because the concert venue culture, or like just even the frolicking and the celebration of it, there's a weird, weighty, dead energy over what we call culture. I'm not saying that the artists don't exist. You know, you and I, we're clearly artists, but there is something about the enthusiasm. And this is something I brought up while we were talking to Tommy Dorfman. And when he went further into just how aggressive Live Nation's practices are. In fact, you know, I think 2 days ago, he talked about they purchased another amphitheater. So it doesn't look like anytime soon it's going to be slowed down, but it also doesn't seem like, based on many of the industry plants that are posing as I'm a social media influencer, or I'm a YouTube reactor just like you, and, you know, by the way, look this way, Drake went to go buy some milk. Doesn't it look gay, right? The conversations are being drudged in a different direction. So when you look at, you know, some of the open conversations that were taking place with, you know, Nirvana and Kurt Cobain, you know, his mouth dropped open when he found out that Madonna, how much was being charged, how much she was charging for the pricing of tickets. You know, we're not even really having those cultural conversations anymore. So it's kind of like, it's really a perfect system, because you have people that are going to opt into the more salacious topics. You know, Kendrick Lamar, you know, he walked outside, and we're going to try to see what kind of shoes he has on, right? Are they size 6s or 7s, right? And those are the things that are going to be driving, because the CRM rates are going to be higher on those subjects, because the algorithm is, number one, recognizing that a collective community keeps talking about this subject. And then the other side of it is that you have corporations that have paid bot farming that is driving the algorithm in a different direction. Just like even with the idea that in some of the news reports, Live Nation is not mentioned as a part of the deal. So everything that Tommy Dorfman has been talking about and what he said in the interview when we sat down with him, everything is true, you know, and it has bled into hip hop. You know, maybe if people have a chance to actually dissect some of the business dealings, you know, and hip hop's never been good with that. I'm just going to be honest with you all. I mean, even the marriage or the fruition or what was going on with Live Nation to eventually what becomes Rock Nation, and, you know, what we're talking about with Lucian Grange, and what we're talking about with what L.A. Reid spoke about, or even before then, what we talked about with other industry insiders that went public and have said, hey, you know, the industry's moving in a weird way. We saw that with Def Jam. This is before Live Nation. This is before Rock Nation. This is before, even look what Daz Dillinger is talking about with Death Row. He said for 30 years he has not received no royalties from the Chronic. And Death Row sound wouldn't be what it was if it wasn't for Daz Dillinger. And you saw, again, DJ Quick came out not too long ago, and he said the little $100 royalty checks that he's getting is a ripoff. So the industry is not designed to have these conversations. And then where the delusion that happens with rap culture, you know, we beat the war drums about someone that's not being aesthetically or performatively on point with what we call rap and hip hop culture, but also the general culture is not being wiser and taking real dives into these types of conversations and these systems that will affect music. It's already affected music. You see what's going on right now, even with the use of AI. You know, you've had artists like, look at the big deal that everybody made about, you know, and rightfully so, because you do have to respect the dead and get consent from the estate. And, you know, even if the artist was progressive before their death, you know, you don't always know if they would want to see their likeness in technology, like we see with Val Kilmer versus what we saw with Prince. All right. And people got upset with Val Kilmer. For some people, it was just a little creepy because it was like, you know, he just died. So it's a bit morbid. But Val Kilmer said he was very excited about the technology. His family said he was excited about the technology versus what we saw with the late Tika Nelson, the only full-blooded sibling to Prince. And Prince repeatedly said he didn't want to be used as a hologram. He didn't want to be tied up in any potential forms of AI or some sort of tech where it looked like they reanimating the dead. And she came out and said at the time while she was living, she said there's an option on the table for hologram usage. The whole point is that, yes, we can have these conversations about whose career is over or who's really carrying the culture or who's real and who's fake. But I always felt like all of the talking points are fraud, because realistically, like Sin read from the article, and we've been talking about this for a moment, and Tommy Dorfman's been fighting this for 16 years. The real things that are really actually affecting how we even consume this beautiful art that we love, nobody really wants to talk about it, because a lot of these people also don't want to mess up their potential opportunity with relationships to the artists, or they themselves are already plugged in from the industry and they don't want to mess up their relationships just in general. So all around, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's just looking like an Arkham Asylum.
Prince is correct. Like, from our experience, like, guys, we're not dumb when we see you industry people. When you try to sway us in favor of Jay-Z or Kendrick or Drake or Cole, I mean, you think Prince and I are dumb? We've been here for years now doing all of this. We've had people in the industry knock on our doors for 9 years now, okay? The temptation has always been there. You never bit into the fucking apple. That 2024 battle was a social experiment. It was seeing, can you destroy an artist very quickly, and what will the fan do? The fans, the super fans. You had super fans defending Drake as if this was a war for them. And it is a war to some degree because it was orchestrated. That's why Ye was on his album talking about World War III. And then you have people who are super fans that are defending Kendrick, right? Cole, so on and so forth. Like, even when people keep telling me there's a campaign against Rock Nation. If something is true about Rock Nation, that is just true if it's proven to be true. And they do have a partnership with Live Nation. So if something comes out that is verified, you cannot say anything about that. You just got in trouble and you're trying to hide behind what? The super fans for protection. Like, even when Jay-Z's name was referenced by Jess Staley, and how you had industry media platforms rush to defend so nobody in hip-hop can even talk about it. There's a mature way you could talk about it. This doesn't mean that Jay-Z is automatically guilty, right? But his name still was referenced in the Epstein files through Jess Staley, who mentioned his name. Even the crisis intake calls that were mentioned, that were done in 2019, and then they were brought up right now in the files. People try to put that on Drake when that had nothing to do with Drake. What Drake is so seeing and powerful that he can go back and have people just call in 2019. Like, fucking think. The same thing you have also when people blame something on Jay-Z that has nothing to do with Drake, or they blame something on Kendrick that don't have nothing to do. And I'm not saying all the time. Sometimes these artists are sending shots. For example, you have celebrities now coming out doing tours saying it's the fans' fault. How is it the fans' fault? The fans didn't tell Kendrick to make those diss tracks. The fans didn't tell Drake to make those diss tracks. But the fans are the scapegoat, and they are also the footstools that are needed as a stepping stone for Spotify, Ticketmaster, and Live Nation to become all-seeing, powerful, and prominent. And don't get me wrong, there's other streaming platforms waiting in the wings, because if this is successful, they're going to do that super fan crap not only on Complex, not only on Spotify, Ticketmaster, and Live Nation. They're spreading it everywhere. And and look, you got to be careful because they're also taking out regular people. You have everyday people who are just on YouTube doing their stuff, who have got caught up in the Bermuda Triangle that we talked about, the first ones to talk about. And they got caught up in this Bermuda Triangle People literally doxed regular people, harmed regular people, got the audience to smear somebody else just because, again, they didn't like Kendrick music or they liked Kendrick music, because they liked Drake music or didn't like Drake music, or because they like Cole music or didn't like Cole music. This is all a setup, and it's perverted. Especially, it makes people not talk about Live Nation and Ticketmaster. You have no hip hop platform that's talking about Live Nation being a cartel. You have no one being brave enough to have these conversations. You have, like, even with UMG, Funk Pioneer, this is from Black Enterprise, Funk Pioneer George Clinton is taking legal action against Universal Music Group, alleging the record label withheld more than 1.1 million in royalty payments tied to his legendary catalog, right? People are more interested in talking about, who you like or dislike more between Kendrick and Drake than at least weaving these important conversations into it. And Lucian Grange was able to win big time off of this. I remember in 2023, before the rap battle happened, we were talking about Lucian Grange and him being in a lawsuit with Lil Rod, where Lil Rod in the original lawsuit alleged that Lucian Grange was involved in trafficking and he was involved in all these bad things that were connected to Diddy. Magically, Kendrick and Drake get into it. And on all of their albums, like Prince said, J. Cole said they trying to put my head in the news, and Drake said they trying to JFK me, and Kendrick talk about whacked out murals. But in 2023, we was talking about Lucian Grange, and then now we're not as much anymore, because people are like, well, Lucian can get away with what he wants to because we don't like Drake. We're a super fan or super hater. Super hate to the point that Drake is more important to you than the criminals who are trying to ruin all of our lives. But you're looking for low-hanging fruit like Drake. That's why when people got mad at us, I don't give a fuck when people get mad at us, because I'm here to stand for truth, not to be a liar here on this mic. When we said people who was talking about boycott Drake was dumb, people got mad at us, was like, Dark Crimes, you're not real, or this is why you're called the think tank. No, the think tank is to think with fucking intelligence. That is what the think tank is for. Because you have these evil think tanks around here trying to subjugate people through your fandom of a particular artist. This is why we said before, no, why would you boycott an artist? If you really want to do something, you will boycott UMG. You would even do, to give him credit, Mickey Fax, when he talked about, well, should we do something with this whole Spotify thing? That's something you would do. You would not fall for the play and go try to boycott a celebrity, whether you like them or not. If a celebrity is caught with domestic violence or trafficking or whatever they're being accused of, you will eventually see them be in prison, like on some Harvey Weinstein shit. All right, you don't have to worry about that. If real concrete evidence come in, you can always discuss it. No big deal. But what UMG allegedly has done, along with Spotify and Live Nation, this is some Palpatine shit, and they have all of hip hop caught into this, and many people are afraid to talk about it. And we're gonna get into the Larry Jackson part of this situation too, in Gamma on our Patreon. So y'all make sure y'all go check that out. Prince, are you ready to talk about the stuff that people clicked on here to listen to, which is what's your perspective on Drake being allegedly smeared by Lucian Grange? About these dark entities, they have their eggs in the big three, in Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, because a lot of them are seeing who's going to be on the throne, or the puppet throne, I guess you could say, pertaining to this whole UMG situation. Although there's three possibilities with Drake. They say he may go indie, he may go over to Sony, or he may stay with UMG on the plantation and continue forward, which I think, again, UMG, Sony, one and the same, even though UMG right now probably is in the lead out of the big three record labels, which is Sony, Warner, with the type of moves they're making. What's your thoughts on that? And then we'll get to the Heart Part 7.
I think it's par for the course. You get what I'm saying? And one thing you got to give it to with these dusty Siths, all right? And I'm talking about, these are some of the dustier Siths. If you look at Darth Maul and Vader, they were very clean and impeccable, right? Their attire shiny, but they were evil. They were evil now. But these are the dusty, stinky sis that are at the bottom of the mountain. And the reason why I'm saying this is that it works, okay? It works. If it ain't broke, why fix it, right? Think about this. Everybody loves her now because, for a lot of people, she's auntie. For a lot of people, she's like, the legend, the diva, Mariah Carey. If you go back to when Mariah Carey did the soundtrack for Glitter and she was in the film, right? And it got panned by critics. I want y'all to think about this real quick. Mariah Carey is a legendary writer. She's a legendary composer. She's a powerful producer. She has alien vocal cords. Mariah Carey was made to look like a regular ass crazy woman. And she eventually says the pressures of the industry, because also Tommy Mottola, her former husband, had an industry hit out on her. For me personally, I remember these things. I remember seeing Mariah Carey coming out on TRL when we was a kid and seeing Carson Daly look, and it was a moment in television. And everybody had jokes about Mariah Carey being crazy. Remember, they made fun of her on SNL. They had comedians that was cutting up about her, and they were saying, is it over for Mariah Carey? Listen, I said this before. Anytime a big artist has a special, very powerful Sith executive on their ass, Mariah Carey had Tommy Mottola. Michael Jackson had Tommy Mottola. Ooh, 2 for 2 right there. Because remember now, Tommy Mottola went around and tried to create clones of Mariah Carey to take her out the market. He even tried it with Jennifer Lopez when he was basically trying to put some of the similar pop aesthetics into J-Lo, right? Even had her dressing like Mariah Carey in the videos, right? Lucian Grange going after Drake, I'm not surprised. I like, this is the part where the conversation is stuck about, I don't like Drake since Meek Mill. I don't like Drake since Pusha T. That's fine. But if you look at the tradition of Sith executives head hunting what they perceive as their property, which are these artists, and when their artists get out of line, you will have an executive, and you got to understand they have nothing to do. An executive that has always been able to have power, them chopping down a Janet Jackson, oh, that's beautiful. Honey, I'm going to be coming home late. I have to destroy her career. That's exactly what Les Moonves said. And remember, it was speculated that something was going on with Janet Jackson's career. And if you paid attention enough, you occasionally heard random interviews. I do recall seeing random interviews from Les Moonves because he had to sit down and he was talking about the FCC. And this is when Colin Powell's son was chairman over the FCC. But you didn't think much of it. But you did see Janet Jackson's very powerful career. All of a sudden, you just started to see floating bad album reviews after bad album reviews. That's why I brought up what went on with Mariah Carey with Glitter. She was still having a heated internal fight with Tommy Mottola at that time. And it later came out that he put an industry hit out on her. Same thing with Michael Jackson. Tommy Mottola and several powerful executives, because Michael Jackson was the final form of celebrity. Several powerful executives wanted to chop Michael Jackson down. So for me personally, I don't see anything any different with Drake. And again, if you followed us on our channel, if you've been listening to us through our different podcasts when we had them posted up everywhere, we've kept the same energy. We talked about Prince. We talked about Warner Brother executives that said they were going to make sure Prince doesn't get to perform in another stadium again. I don't know why people in contemporary rap times, other than we know that there are paid industry plans to push agendas in all fronts. It's not just about Drake. It's just in all fronts. But it's still, it's still asinine for me to see rap listeners to slowly process like, oh, an executive wants to destroy a big artist. And, for me, it's par for the course. We've seen it over and over.
Yeah, looking at all this information from our personal opinion, I don't think they wanted Drake and Kendrick on first person shooter together. I don't think there's certain entities that just didn't want it to happen. People, of course, going to still be in their egos and going to go out there and say, yeah, the right decisions were made. Not what some people are telling us, what they said certain Sony execs wanted to do, allegedly, to a certain West Coast rapper. Mm-hmm. For those who've been listening to our Patreon, y'all know what we're talking about. And a lot of the brainwashing they have tried to use on thought crimes. And, Prince and I are not easy to brainwash. And a lot of our audience, yeah, they may, even with us, all of us, including us, we may get sucked into it for a little bit. But our audience is pretty smart too. Not even pretty smart. They're very fucking smart. And our audience, they going to see this and they're going to understand because they're going to see the consistency that we've had over the years. I think that a lot of the people who have been doing smear campaigns against each other, podcaster to podcaster, whether you're an industry person or not, y'all should probably stop doxing each other, probably stop doing smear campaigns against each other. And you should focus on what Live Nation is doing, Spotify is doing, and UMG, and unify. And also to bring up what Prince is saying, also, it doesn't matter if you like somebody or not. There's certain pop stars I don't like musically, or may have allegations or may not, that may be founded or not. But I do know a setup when I see one. And that is what's taking place right now. When you're talking about the three brothers, the big three, the race to the top. A lot of things are being done in the dark that by the time they come to light, if you're still a super fan, you're never going to see it because you're too blind to see it. You're too blind to see it. And a lot of the people who are instigating this stuff, they're quietly in the shadows. Some of y'all names, y'all don't even know their names, beyond Lucian Grange. What they call them, blue bloods, whatever. Hiding deep in there, quiet, while you have lower ranking mafia and gangbangers saying they're ready to die for their favorite artists, not knowing that that is a part of the plan. For you to go harm somebody else, for you to go dox somebody else, for you to be a savage on the behalf of the state. We want you to get so wound up that you basically make excuses for somebody to die without any evidence. And I've seen it. I saw people who were encouraging Kendrick to be no longer here. I saw people who were encouraging Drake. Oh, yeah, he need to go because he's 100% for sure a pedo with no evidence. With no evidence. People are supposed to be guilty. Guilty. They're like Judge Dredge. People are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Even if you feel that person is that. Like, I've personally felt Kevin Spacey was that because he admitted to, having a bad interaction with a 14-year-old. And when Anthony came out, the actor from Star Trek, he said he was being inappropriate sexually with me. And Kevin Spacey out of his own mouth said, oh, I did it because I was drunk. Right? So that's based from his own mouth. At the same time, though, people still allowed him to go through the judicial system, innocent until proven guilty, right? I saw that the battle of 2024, I think it made a lot of institutions confident that they can easily do character assassinations and people will participate. So everybody is already Black Mirroring themselves, including the people who watch Black Mirror. You would think, right? Or read 1984, read Animal Farm, or read A Brave New World. For all, even the people who are supposed to be super smart are super dumb. Because they're still participating in all of this, even after reading all of those books. And you're still participating in it every day. This is why, some of us got to move beyond ego and, join together and figure something out, because you keep going in the direction that you're going, you're just going to allow UMG, Live Nation, and Spotify just to run everything. Now to the music part, because that's why I came here, and I don't want them to think that the title is misleading. For people who said ICEMAN don't have a story, not true. ICEMAN does have a story. The story is about Drake going through his own emotions and even his pettiness about what took place in 2024. At first not knowing who to trust, but now he feels secure in his friendships for the people who've been there for him since day one. It talks about his paranoia, or who's going to be the corporate assassin to try to take him out. And also was weaved in through the ICEMAN is basically him dealing with two identities. One of being a hitman himself, or one of maybe being a hero himself if he can make the right decision pertaining to what is going on with UMG, which is why he said he's going up against the man. You can believe him or not believe him, but that is what ICEMAN is talking about, along with his emotions of friendships that he thought he had that are now have broken, and also heartbreak and all that other type of stuff, right? So that's what you hear on ICEMAN, including more things pertaining to the story. But I think because people don't know about the corporate situation that's going on, they don't understand that technically the Fall Off, ICEMAN, and GNX have a couple of themes and stories that actually overlap with each other. What's the difference between Whacked Out Murals, where obviously is being insinuated that somebody is trying to take Kendrick out, with ICEMAN, where whether you're talking about Make Them Pay or Make Them Remember, or even Janice, Shut the Fuck Up. Like, this is him saying they're trying to get rid of me. They're trying to harm me, murder me, allegedly. And then you also had in the Fall Off, J. Cole talking about they trying to put my noose in the neck with 39 intro. So these are some really interesting things. Also remember that UMG now has an astrologer. So yeah, good. Yes, give UMG all the tools they need to try to subjugate people more. Like, that's a great idea. To try to also control people in the spiritual world. But anyway, these are a lot of things that I think people should pay attention to. ICEMAN does have a story, and we're going to talk about what that story is, just like we did with GNX and just like we did with the Fall Off. A lot of people got mad at us because, they want us to give everybody's album a 1 or a 2, but we're going to not play those games. And then also going to the Heart Part 7 with Kendrick Lamar. This is what Night Night said. He said he believes that Kendrick Lamar is going to drop the Heart Part 7. He also believes that he may take shots at 50 Cent, The Game, and other people who are backing Drake. Now, this is a part of, again, that whole energy of still creating a super fan, because it has harmed the music to some degree, because, Prince and I could be sitting up here just being excited about the big three and how what they mean to the blog era. But now, we're having these conversations about the title fight between Jay-Z and Drake, because Drake feels like Jay-Z has been a part of the corporate assassination of him. And even though he says on the ICEMAN it hurts that some of the things people said was a complete lie, there's nothing he could do about that but to continue pushing forward. You have also the Heart Part 7, and even DDM, who was on our Patreon, talking about when Kendrick had his fist covered up, like, Kung Fu Kenny possibly coming back outside, possibly doing some Machiavelli stuff musically. But with Prince, it's difficult because we have to balance what we know is happening behind the scenes, which is just, again, a play against all of us, while also keeping people interested enough to enjoy the music and have fun, because people want to have fun, right, Prince?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, Sincere, great points. I do want to also, just go back a little bit and speak about what you said concerning ICEMAN. We did see a story, ladies and gentlemen. If you even think about Kendrick Lamar being the victor on GNX, I mean, it really wasn't a celebratory album. I mean, it had some spirited production by, of course, DJ Mustard, but the album still kind of had like this very dark grief overtone, that is, highlighted with Man at the Garden. And then you hear him trying to wrestle with his consciousness of reclamation. And he said, even at times, I've lied to the people, right? So it's not even, none of the albums, if you look at even with all three of the big three's albums, they all kind of have this Grim Reaper theme on it, and that's why I don't believe we've gotten the complete story, because there's not, we saw first person shooter, but even the backstory about what was going on there is kind of all over the place. So yes, I look, if Kendrick decides to do the Heart Part 7, I'm sure, just like with Drake dropping the Iceman, it's going to continue to create a forever grief cycle in culture today. And what do I mean by that? There are people that are a part of the swing voting class. They are grieving culture right now. There's some people say like, bruh, can we please get past Jay-Z, Nicki, Kendrick, and Drake, and J. Cole? But I also see that as design. Yes, these are all talented artists. When I'm speaking about them in their performance as entertainers, I think what they've done in their careers as entertainers, I think they've all been remarkable. But the fact that I can't drive down the block without seeing 6 Walmarts, that already tells me, well, I'm under a monopoly rule. So I take it in as that artistically, I'll always be open to what it is that Kendrick Lamar is going to be doing with his pen game. That part I've always separated. It's kind of like when you go back, and again, I'm not making the two equatable, but you go back and you find out about some of your favorite artists, Marvin Gaye, and even some of the stuff that may have happened early on with Prince, and some of the stories in the early 90s. It's not a rosy situation, but I do appreciate the transparency that Kendrick Lamar has as an artist, that he's willing to share his craft with the public. Same thing with Drake. I disagree with people that are just saying, the Iceman, there's nothing there. Completely the opposite. This is possibly one of Drake's most introspective albums he's ever made. And there's a real story arc we had a chance to see, because we had a chance to listen to the victor from GNX, and even though Kendrick Lamar was victorious in the battle, there was still a weightiness on it. It didn't really feel like a Lil Jon Crunk album. It didn't feel like, it didn't feel like an E40 album. It didn't feel light and heavy. It felt dark. It felt moody. There was a lot of brooding. There was a lot of introspection. J. Cole, even for all the jokes people have given him, even though I still think, and Sin agrees as well, we both came to this conclusion, I think The Fall Off is his best body of work that he's ever produced musically and sonically. He's improved on the singing and the crooning. There's still a dark, sombering theme there. There's a grief there. There's a hurt there. And then with Drake, the person that got stabbed up by the Senate, he comes out of the studio bleeding, but now he's moved into this cold phase. And it is interesting that you have one artist that it is trying to move closer to their art of displaying again, when we talk about with the heart. But even with Kendrick Lamar, he's had to make cold decisions in his career concerning the heart and everything. So I will be interested in seeing what he says, if he's going to go after the game, if he's going to go after 50 Cent or some of the other people, or I don't know, people in culture, whatever the case is. I mean, I'm going to listen, But I think if anything, it's just going to trigger, like you brought up earlier excellently. I think this is all still a further step forward to creating the super fan culture. And, it's cool, it's fine, but I'm also saying now we're also looking at things from, different perspectives as well, because we actually are in media and we see unnatural things. We've seen when there's a push in one direction. I would try to be a little bit wiser and careful with it. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. The ICEMAN, even Drake getting beat up as bad as he did. And again, he opted to fight. I want to be clear. He did want to fight, but a lot of people, even Rick Ross, fell on his leg. All right. But look at the return, though. Yeah, there's this complaint, between Drake and UMG, and even industry insiders are saying that, well, UMG is saying that the relationship with them and Drake is complicated, which means there's still a possibility, open for negotiations. I personally wouldn't trust it, but, I'm not Drake. But what I will say, folks, you got to be out of your damn mind if you don't think that they looked at what happened with Drake in 2024, and then he comes outside and looks like he's about to sell officially over 700,000 units in an era where Chris Brown is doing 70,000, in an era where Lil Baby was doing 16,000 and Meek Mill was crying about doing 13,000, folks. They are going to factor in that conflict still drives the business. Yes, Kendrick Lamar, fight Drake again, come back out south in round 2, or get into it with other rappers. It's literally no different with those types of situations.
Yeah, I actually think the super fan was being groomed even before that. I think that the record labels purposely dwindled it down to the big three.
Yes.
I think Big Crit and Wale and the rest of them, Chance the Rapper, who's put out a good single lately, by the way, too. I think the rest of the blog era was pushed out, and we're with the big three because the point is to create a super fan. You can't not make a super fan if you got like 500 artists running about in hip hop that everybody likes. No. In order to have super fans, we got to have some Pepsi and cola. We got to dwindle it down. So I think this order, this 666 order, was put in a while ago, and I think so far it's working to some degree. Although one good thing is that Live Nation is getting beat up right now, and people need to keep stomping on Live Nation. So that's hope. That's a good thing. Hopefully people continue to do that. And hip hop platform people who are in the forefront of doing that, like Tommy Dorfman. But I think this was in play to begin with. And like you said, ICEMAN absolutely have a story, just like a lot of people aren't getting it because they rush to make fun of Drake. And don't get me wrong, I like making fun of Drake. I like making fun of Kendrick too. I like making fun of Cole. But we took a pause for a little bit when it came to our humor, because people are trying to weaponize our humor to destroy these guys instead of leaving it what it is. It's to have fun. It's not for you to really use it to weaponize to try to get rid of these people, but you're too much of a punk to try to do something or joke on Lucian Grange with them Dumbledore ears. Like, so you're too afraid to get on him, but you'll weaponize anything to try to get rid of one of these three guys. But going back to your point, yeah, this has been already in the works for a while. In order to have a super fan, you also can't have too many artists out there, and it means more control. Remember with the Defiant Ones with Jimmy Iovine, they said it's time to not have any more big icons or legends. We want to dwindle it down, and you have a thing right now where UMG is going to allow fans to remix their favorite artists with AI. So if a celebrity dies, right, or however they die, fans will be able to play with their music into infinity and beyond. And guess what happens? UMG says, "Oh, it's only for the artists who opt in." One day, then the next day is all UMG artists. That whole what they say where guys be like, "Oh, just let me put the tip in,
put the head in," and it's standard in the contract now.
Right? No, and the whole thing is gonna go through. You don't believe in the trick? Oh, let me just put the head in. Like, come on now, you fucking stupid.
They said, "What are you doing?" Go ahead.
But I think I'm gonna close it out here unless you have anything else to say. But no, ICEMAN does have a story. Y'all already know our platform. We have a backbone. We don't care about the stands or the paid industry people on payola on all sides and all that other stuff. We're going to have a backbone. We're going to tell you the truth. I'm not getting no bad karma by being a fucking liar just so I could try to be a groupie to Kendrick, Drake, or Cole and try to be over there because you think you're going to get some type of gifts or some shit. This is what's going on. And ICEMAN does have a story, just like GNX had a story, just like the Fall Off had a story. And you're going to have people drop in their mixtapes. You know, Scary Hours 4 is going to drop, where Drake is probably going to still be in a direction of trying to go to what he thinks his ops are. You may get a mixtape or something, or a Heart Part 7 EP, or something that may drop, you don't know, or an album from Kendrick as well. And remember, Cole is going to be dropping It's a Boy, you know, which is supposed to be an EP or a mixtape as well. So we'll see what happens.
No, those are great points. And the crazy part about it is that, you know, I'm going to be interested in seeing what Kendrick Lamar has to say. You know, I'm going to be real with you all. I'm not really interested in preferably like a round 2 between him and Drake. I actually kind of feel the bases are a little bit is a little bit too messy, and I don't really say that too often. A lot of times, y'all know, I'm always down to see what MCs are battling about. Sin is too as well, but if he does come outside and he talks about some of these people, or he may talk about some other things, it's going to drive traffic anyway, because like you said, Sin, I mean, it's basically down to, you know, McDonald's versus Burger King and Jack in the Box. Okay? You know, and some people's like, yo, what you trying to say about Cole? Y'all know we have our jokes. But no, I think Cole did a remarkable album. I think it's his best masterpiece. I think with ICEMAN, I feel it's some of the best work I've heard from Drake in a long ass time. But we'll still give our final review on our Patreon too, by the way. And with GNX, you know, I thought it was cinema. I thought it was an excellent album. Not all of the features were my favorite, but overall, I thought sonically, it had a lot of conviction. Favorite track on that album is hands down Reincarnated. But it was designed for this, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if you really go back and look at the blog era, of course, certain rappers have passed away. Some of them naturally, and then some of them in violent manners, like what we saw with Young Dolph and Nipsey Hussle. Because people also forget, on the other side of the blog era, you still had the guys that came out of the trap, or they came out of the streets, and they were able to use the internet. Dolph was technologically savvy. Nipsey Hussle was technologically savvy. Actually, all of these guys and women were technologically savvy. That's what makes them a part of the blog era, because they knew how to self-distribute. And they also connected with bloggers, popular bloggers, and bloggers was promoting. So it was a lot of cross-pollination. That's why when we've been reduced it down to like nigga technology on Clubhouse, first of all, I never listened to no greasy, ashy back convict nigga out of Sing Sing telling me with his old age about what I'm into, what my culture is. Because if you go back to the blog era, what was brilliant about it, you had nerds, dorks, cross-pollinating with gangsters, street dudes, that they all wanted to, hey man, can you put my boy on? He's real good. Or hey, I do this art design. So it was actually a very, very wonderful, fantastic communal front. What we see with social media today is the corporate version of what naturally went on then. So when you talk about the blog of it, the reason why, like when Sim brings this up, the reason why so many people made it through, there was no gatekeeping. There was no gatekeeping. If I wanted to hear Nipsey Hussle and turn around and listen to Faye Sean, I can do that. If I wanted to hear Charles Hamilton, then turn around and listen to early Kid Cudi, I can do that. I can go to Wale. I can go to early Rhapsody when she's hanging out the window dressing like the Joker. There was no gatekeeping. Everything we see on social media today, the Silicon Valley technologists got in and they've become gatekeeper, and now they have officially gate-kept the entire blog era, class, culture, and the artists. We have 3 niggas left. People do forget to throw in Nicki Minaj, but she's a woman, so it's 3 niggas left because the corporations told you it's 3 niggas left. And then now finally we have the big 3 coming in, which is going to be Live Nation, Spotify, and then of course we're seeing what's been going on with UMG as well. So what you're seeing, and the reason why I just brought up, like, each one of these guys' albums, there is grief. It's a Grim Reaper energy on all of their albums. That's because it's drawing to a close, but now it's kept by these corporatists. And so this is where we are right now. So on one hand, I am interested in what Kendrick has to say for the Heart Part 7. I'm not as enthusiastic to see the nigga crash into anybody else right now because of just look at what is the bankable interest on it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they kind of gonna keep all 3 of these niggas on, like, it's gonna be 3 niggas at the Black Museum. And what they're gonna do when convenient, they're gonna keep crashing them into each other to spark some more traffic in the industry. Like, look at when Kendrick and Drake and Cole crashed into each other. It was literally the biggest moment in music. And then for 2 years, a lot of people ate, a lot of companies rebranded themselves. You see KFC online with Waffle House throwing up the Toronto 6 Michael Jackson Glove single from Drake's album. Those are billion-dollar companies that are also jumping in on this as well. And right when things dial down, I think they're going to put them back in the nigga museum situation to spark it up again. Come on, 3 niggas, get us going again. So, of course, they want that. 50 Cent is going to be serving as that. They were trying to get it with T.I., but T.I. sounded tired, and he's like, look, I just want you to stop talking about me. But the companies, this is so fucking funny. We talked about this on Patreon. It's Jimmy Iovine. He's in the room. And Jimmy Iovine is tied to Complex now. And controversy has always sold. He's not the only one. He's not the only Italian that does it. There's other Italians. There's other Jews, Italian Jews. There's other black men and women that are on that in the industry. But I just thought about it. The conflict is there because it sells. And that's why you're going to keep hearing this thing about, oh, is G about to diss J. Cole? You see what I'm saying? So they're going to keep pushing this because this is a way how you drive business and media, and friction always does that.
Yeah, they didn't want, even though Drake did agree to do the battle, they didn't want, he did start with an olive branch. Whatever took place before then, They just simply didn't want Drake and Kendrick to come together, and that's just is what it is. They didn't want them to come together, and they want there to be beef central 24/7. Of course, we're gonna still listen to the music.
Yes,
Scary Hours 4 if the Heart Part 7 does drop, but we already know all you sneaky camp niggas who keep circling around. This is why, also just to let y'all know, this is why a lot of what we do got ate up and was weaponized to try to destroy certain artists. You just have Dark Money on some Black Rock shit in the room. You got a lot of people sucking up data. And we're going to leave it here because we've been going on and on, but we will be having a part 2 to this. We love y'all. We're going to leave off with a brilliant artist that we just, all right. We're going to leave off with there in our outro. We love y'all. Peace.
I hope you yeah. I wrote this on some intuition. I wasn't there in time. Something told me I should see the signs. I hope you happy now. No time to mourn, I'm on the second line. A parade stretched to many miles, just celebrating times. To be a man, the world will humble you soon. Ain't no riches in my burial tombs, nor is heaven for few. Just want some love like the family I knew. And yet they ask me why I'm always on mute. pressured. Eyes water, my life confessions. Peep the message, call me back and don't forget me. I admit this shit is hard to resume, but I'ma keep on spilling my truth. I told Leah and Jordy that I'ma be there, so don't you worry about it. Shit, I know how I feel to have the distant father. Who you call as a child when niggas will beat your mama? What you do when control is never the fucking option? Brace yourself for this single moment just might be left. I took a breath and said fuck it, the afterlife is next. I wonder what is next. I hope you. I hope you. Yeah. I hope you find what you looking for. Shit, I had to meet 'em at the Rose. Gifted promises ensuring that I make it home. Know your path and don't forget it, my nigga. Before I change the world, I still gotta stare in the mirror. As my review becomes no issue, don't be mistaken, cause the past has made a breakthrough. I hope the sun rains on you when you find your glory. I hope your life is fulfilling, fruitful before the soil. That's word to oil, let it storm before the sunshine. This uprising's heavy lifting. My ghetto Trojan, may you be alright. Until the end, y'all. Until the end, y'all. Until the tomb as I rest like, yeah. I hope you alright. Yeah. Until forever in time. Until forever in time. Yeah. Yeah. Until forever in time. Yeah. Yeah. I wrote these songs for you. I wrote these songs for you. Yeah, yeah, and I hope you alright, and I hope you alright, yeah, and I hope you alright. May the sun rise on you, may the sun rise on you, yeah, we gon'.
Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
White folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
If he dies, he dies.
Go to our Patreon for more, and don't bother me.